I still speak to 50 customers a month.
Yeah.
If I lose that connect with the end customer, I'm dead.
I mean, you have prime examples of Jeff Bezos. Their first go-to was a consumer research.
We had heard that if you have grievances on Amazon and nobody replies, email Jeff Bezos. We had reached a situation where someone was violating our trademark. I just emailed some Jeff at Amazon.com or something like that. Got a response.
Incredible.
Lululemon today is a $8 billion company selling yoga pants. Zero of the value is coming to India. Zero. I don't even think they sell in India, right?
No.
So I remember calling my granddad from campus and saying, we can't let the same happen with Ayurveda.
If you want to hear a story about privilege and yet how foundational values while growing up has helped him unlock value for everyone around and never take his privilege for granted, then this is the conversation for you. Today, I spoke with Arjun Vaidya, where he started his journey to make Dr. Vaidya, a 150-year-old legacy brand, cool. He wanted to make Ayurveda aspirational, so he launched hangover pills, Chyawanprash pills, and all of that led him to exit the business and made him millions. You often would see him giving expert advice on D2C brands and more recently on the Amazon Prime show Startup Up. But on this episode, he spoke really about him, and you get to know a lot more about Arjun as a person and really what drives him every day to be better and better. So listen in, keep meditating, but before that, also make sure you subscribe to our channel so that we can get many more of such interesting guests and conversations to you. Thanks, Arjun. Thanks for coming on Pragyaan. I know you have a super busy day and rather busy weekend, and yet you took time to come.
My pleasure. This has been a long time coming, so excited to do this.
Yeah, and I think, the one thing that really cut through to me when I met you the first time is the absolute humility and just the genuineness that you have. And it's just so easy to talk and connect with you. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Me too.
So yeah, I mean, I think, while there are so many hats that you wear, you're a podcaster, you're also an investor, you've run a very successful legacy brand, Dr. Vaidya. Where I really want to go down is also, what are your fundamental values that have made you successful in whatever hat you've chosen to wear?
Yeah. Look, I think this value system was drilled in by my grandfather, then eventually by my dad. It was the 7 philosophies of my dad's company. And then eventually when we started our company as well, they were the 7 philosophies of Dr. Vaidya's. It was on every offer letter, outside my room, pasted all over the office as well, and was a deep part of how we hired. So there were 7. Honesty is our practice. Like, I'm okay if someone says they came late because they overslept rather than because there was an accident on the road, right? Humility is our equity. So I remember my grandfather, like a very telling image of my grandfather was when he passed, he wore a white safari suit every day to work with same big black glasses, black polished shoes, but he always had a 5 rupee red pen in his pocket. And I remember asking him, like, when I remember grade 5, we shifted from pencils to pens.
Yes.
And he had given me a Schaefer pen at that time, which was, I think, like 3,000, 4,000 rupees, and I would take it to school and all of that. So I said, you gave me the Schaefer pen, but you still have the 5 rupee red pen. And he said, that will always remind me where I came from. And I'll never ever forget that. And he said, never let it get to your head. And I remember when he was passing, we made his body wear the white safari suit, put on the black shoes. And then before he was going in, my cousin said, no, we have to put the red pen in his pocket, right? So humility is our equity. Happy to work and happier to achieve. I think the only way for you to do something consistently for a long period of time is if you enjoy it. 100% and nothing less. Team effort is our power. So we never ever said the word employee at Dr. Vaidya's, at where I work now, V3 as well. It's always team member. And then customer is our reason for being. Anything above the customer. I remember so many times we'd be at a family lunch on Sunday. Obviously, I sold Ayurvedic products, so the value per product was very low. We had this one product which was used a lot in weddings. It was a liver protector that doubled up as a hangover cure. So we used to use that in a lot of wedding hangover kits and stuff. Lots of Sundays we'd get queries from wedding planners saying, hey, I need 100 packets of this product today. 100 packets of that product with discount was 6,400 rupees. I remember leaving family lunches, going up our office on the 6th floor of a building, going up, opening the office, taking out those 100 packets and going and delivering it across the city just to do it, because you can't ever believe that you're above the customer. So I think these are the few philosophies that both in life and in work, I try to live by.
Yeah, I mean, you exude all of that, right? I think I can see that when I'm just interacting with you, that you actually own them and actually have them as part of your core life values, not just something which is up on the wall, which you read, but you actually live them every day. And I think that also brings me to, every time I've seen pictures of you and your family, it's almost as if, it's out of a Karan Johar movie, right? Just absolute generational happiness all across, touch wood.
But Instagram is a false perception of reality. Let me say, I will say that, look, I have grown up in a very close knit family, spend a lot of time with the family. I was telling you as we were coming up in the lift that most of my family lives in the same building complex now. And I think that's beautiful for us. So I think that it's a very important part of my life. And obviously, I like to put important parts of my life out to the world as well. But I would say that, like any family, you'll only see the smiles and the happiness and the celebrations. Obviously, we have, given the sort of level of closeness that we have, there is obviously the other side of arguments and fights, all very healthy. I remember one instance very clearly from our family, which shows the closeness, but also the level of drama. So I told you I live in the same building as my parents. I lived with my parents 4.5 years after getting married, with my wife in the same house, right? At some point, I told my parents, there are no rooms left in this house, and I will have a family at some point. So I'm going to move to my own place. And if possible, I'll be close by, but I'm going to move to my own place. And I remember both my mom and dad started crying. My grandmother lives with us. She started crying. And I was not following what was going on, right? I said, look, I have friends who live in different parts of the city, different cities, different countries. Some live 10,000 miles away from their parents. Here I'm saying I'm moving in max 5 kilometer radius. But my dad sent me a message saying, just because the new culture is to move out from your parents' home, it doesn't mean that you should move out or you have to move out. Don't just follow what everybody's doing. And eventually we were fortunate to have a home in the same building. And obviously it's amazing for my parents and my grandmom to get to spend a lot of time with my daughter as well. But I think family is a very important part of my life for sure.
No, so what I'm hearing you say is that trust is a very important part, right? Whether that's your family, whether that's your workplace. And it's very interesting you speak about your brand, because I think I was really curious to dig a little bit, double click on the Dr. Vaidya brand that you in some way took over, and in very many ways also modernized, right? I mean, you got the whole e-commerce piece in, and you made it a brand which people could sit at home and order, and also get exposed to what does Ayurveda really look like, and why should somebody consume what Ayurveda has to offer. Today, of course, it's a fad, and we'll talk about that as well. But I'm really curious to know that what were some of those modernization steps that you took, and how difficult was it for people who were in the company to actually embrace that change management? Because that's a very difficult part.
Look, I think it was harder externally than internally. I took on a clinic without the doctor. My dada was one of India's most successful Ayurvedic doctors. Used to see 350 patients a day in one clinic in Bombay, had 12,000 patients written to him via post. So I took on a legendary doctor's clinic, but that legendary doctor was no more, right? So I had to find a doctor to replace him. I inherited a massive IP of formulations. I inherited 105 FDA approved proprietary Ayurvedic formulations, which were 150 years of our family's legacy and IP. And I inherited a small manufacturing facility in Silvassa. As a team, I inherited about 8 people in the team, 4, 5 in the factory, 3 in the clinic, because honestly, he didn't need a massive team, right? And towards the end of his life, he had also slowed down. He passed when he was 75, 76. So he was not practicing at the level he was when he was 50, 55, etc. So I think from a change management perspective, internally, I just had to get 5, 6 people to buy into what I was doing. Honestly, out of the 8 people, maybe 3, 4 left also after he passed, saying that they didn't want to be a part of it. They didn't know who I was. I was 24 and a half years old, honestly, and I had all these ideas to make a brand. Like the name Dr. Vaidya's, it's my dada's name. I said, okay, like it's my dada's name, so let's make the company call this, right? He used to call his company Herbolab India Private Limited. So we conceptualized the name, we were doing all this logo, packaging, changing the packaging of the product, introducing all this branding, focusing on not diabetes, arthritis, asthma, because you don't have a doctor and you don't have trust and credibility. It's very difficult to sell that. So we started focusing on hangover and Chyawanprash capsules and Chyawanprash toffees and sexual wellness, which this team had never sold before, right? So some people didn't believe, but I think getting the internal team to believe was not so hard because honestly, like the ones who cared for my grandfather and wanted to take his legacy forward said, we'll give this kid 1, 2 years to figure it out. And that's it, right? They just gave me that. I think what was more difficult was externally, right? I remember going out, like obviously I was young. I'd never run a business before. My dad was like, I'll introduce you to some of my friends who have built pharma and Ayurveda businesses, and you can have a chat with them and see. And I went to all of these people with ideas and they were like, you gotta be crazy. Like you are trying to modernize Ayurveda. You're doing this new age packaging. You're trying to make it cool and you're going to go online. Like this industry has never seen that. And we have been in the industry for 50 years and we have never seen that. So it's not going to happen, right? I think for me, exuberance of youth at that time allowed me to just say, I forget what they are saying. Let's make it happen. Today, with all the experience that I have, with all the investments that I've made, with the way we do market research, I think it was pretty crazy, the idea that I had at that time. But I think that allowed us to do something different from what everybody else was doing. Look, if you look at Ayurveda, right, there are giants in this industry. There's Dabur, Patanjali, Imami, Baidyanath, Zandu, Himalaya, like massive companies that have massive legacies for a very long period of time. And then rock up this 24, 25-year-old guy and his fiance who's like 26 and they're like, okay, we're going to build this business and we're going to disrupt things. We tried offline, honestly, where all of these big boys play and we failed massively, like miserably failed. And then we went online and honestly, that was white space. While the market was really small, nobody was interested.
Yeah.
And then as we started scaling, people realized that actually there's a market outside Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai. The market is in Anantnag, Imphal, Trichy and Mizoram. These customers want access to high quality Ayurvedic formulations and care, which we offer through a free consultation, the touch of their fingertips, because they don't have a doctor 2 kilometers away. And so is that something we can offer? So the real value we eventually created was not 2 million transacting customers, not 5,000 orders a day, not so many CR a month of sales. No, it was we got our products to 16,500 pin codes across India. That's 60+% of India's pin codes.
Yeah.
That really increased the reach of Ayurveda, I think. And that was the success of Dr. Vaidya's.
Also, it's very, cool that you say that because when you got onto this, you had a different dream and a different vision and you saw the opportunity being somewhere else, which was, let me talk about the cool factor of Ayurveda, and what really emerged for you is something completely different. And I think often you see that when you start a business, that you have a particular vision for it and you see a gap in a place. And when you actually start the business, it showcases something completely different to you. And I remember when I was at WhatsApp, we saw that as well, where, every time we went out and we thought that most people were using WhatsApp in the country because, it was all about privacy, it was all about end-to-end encryption, because that's why the founders were so passionate about the product. And I remember going to one of the consumer researches and, it was in Varanasi and there was a bunch of ladies sitting around and, in Hindi we said, कि तो आप WhatsApp क्यों यूज़ करती हैं? And she said, मैं जब भी मोबाइल फ़ोन खरीदती हूँ मैं सबसे पहले बोलती हूँ इस पे अगर WhatsApp नहीं है तो कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है क्योंकि ये फ्री है और मैं अपने बच्चों से बात कर पाती हूँ. And then we said, अच्छा ठीक है तो हम इस फ़ोन से WhatsApp हटा दें तो क्या होगा? तो then in her typical Hindi she said, फिर आप गंगा में डाल दो इसको. And we give this research back to Menlo Park and people are like, what really? Like, one,
That's the depth.
just the eye-opening insights you get when you consume, when you actually interact with your own users and consumers.
I think it's humility to accept what the customer is actually saying, right? So I think the great part about digital businesses, the feedback cycles are shorter and the amount of data points thrown at you are much more. So for the first 1 year, some e-commerce founders had told me, pick up the phone. When the customer service phone rings, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
When I started picking up the phone, I realized that the vision of Dr. Vaidya's was make Ayurveda cool, sexy, fun and aspirational for millennial consumers. None of these consumers were cool, sexy, fun, aspirational. None of them spoke English, and none of them were millennials.
Yeah.
So clearly something else was happening, right? We used to read deeply Facebook comments and Instagram comments and DMs to see what was happening there. And if you are at least in a digital business, now every piece of feedback that you get, you cannot action, right? But if you action aggregate feedback from what customers are saying, a lot of times you'll get it right. So I'll give you my favorite example of humility to accept you were wrong and take customer feedback. Weight loss, we thought would be a fantastic category. In at least urban India, it seems like there is a problem of obesity. So we launched this product. We launched a weight loss pack. On the comment section on Facebook, we kept on, and the product was not doing badly. It was doing okay. On the comment section, we started saying, but weight gain ka product chahiye, weight gain ka product chahiye. We want a weight gain product. I said, theek hai, okay. There must be some insight. I don't see weight gain around me, but maybe our customers do. Let me launch a weight gain pack.
Yeah.
So we went in, did some R&D, launched a weight gain pack. That started doing 4x of weight loss. So we thought, okay, chalo, we have won, we have figured out customer insight, high-fiving each other, saying, yeah, we made it happen, right? Now, on the comments of the weight gain product, started saying, weight gain to hai, but Ayurvedic muscle gain kaise kar sakte hai? Whey protein se hum darte hai, chemical se hum darte hai, whatever, right? So then I said, yeah, this is also seeming like an opportunity. So we went back, did some R&D and launched an all Ayurvedic natural muscle gain supplement. The first ever in the world, developed the product. And I remember we launched it in July of 2019, 1 month after we raised our first and only round of capital. That product became #1 bestseller in the mass and weight gain category on Amazon, beating all of these whey protein type products as well. We moved
Fantastic.
2,000 units a day just of this product on our website. And I had no plans to launch this product, no idea this was a gap. So actually, I think just humbly sitting, listening and accepting customer feedback, at least in a digital business, you get those data points, you should use them.
And being really tuned in, looking at the patterns and very quickly reacting and making sure you have the product to serve that need quickly. Otherwise, that need also moves very
Need
fast.
moves. And I think, the way to, so there are like, it may sound cliched and cheesy, talk to your customer, etc. Everybody says that, right? But I've spoken to founders who build much larger businesses than me. Like the founder of Purple, for example, Manish, he told me I still speak to 50 customers a month.
Yeah.
If I lose that connect with the end customer, I'm dead. If I have 6 layers between me and that end customer, then I'm dead.
I mean, you have prime examples of Jeff Bezos, and even when I was at WhatsApp, when our CEOs and I've heard stories about Mark. I was, while I was working there, he never came to India, but their first go-to was, even if they were here for 48 hours, was a consumer research, listening into that conversation for 45 minutes because they want to know, and they're also product people. Even Alan, who's a co-founder of Truecaller, if you know, I remember we met, and in November he was here, and the main thing is he's a guy who will be standing in the corner in a party doing tech support because he's like, I want my product to run, and I'm a product guy. Like, this is the most important thing for me.
Jeff Bezos example you gave, we had heard that if you have grievances on Amazon and nobody replies, email Jeff Bezos. We had reached a situation where someone was violating our trademark, and honestly, like, nobody was doing anything about it. Some other company was selling a product under our trademark name, and obviously they were getting sales because our product was doing well. We tried to raise ticket, like that didn't happen for some reason. It was taking long, and honestly, every minute additionally that I was seeing that product on Amazon, I was getting stressed. Like, oh my God, he's
And riled up.
yeah. So we just wrote an email to Jeff Bezos because someone had told us if nothing works, email Jeff Bezos. And look, he definitely didn't reply. I'm sure he has lots of people screening that email, but somebody replied to us and the issue got solved.
Fantastic.
And that's a beautiful story, right? Like, I just emailed some Jeff at Amazon.com or something like that, or JB at Amazon.com, and I got a response.
Incredible. I mean, these are the moments that build that warm place for that brand in your heart, right? I mean,
and I'm telling this story, so many people will hear about it, and that's how it goes.
And then exactly. But coming back to Ayurveda again, and it's incredible the kind of products you came up with, because protein is always an area where vegetarians have traditionally suffered.
Yeah.
I'm a vegetarian and I always struggle, and I played sport, and you always are told the first thing is, oh, you don't eat. Okay, you're not going to get strong. Okay, then you're not going to be resilient. You're not going to hit the golf ball as long because you're not stronger.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your time and research, which has which in some ways breaks this misnomer.
Yeah. So I think, look, the approach towards what we did at Dr. Vaidya's actually was refined and crystallized in my time at the US. I did my undergrad in the US and I was in the East Coast, and 2009 I left India. I left a very different India from the India we have today, by the way. I left an India which was obsessed with imported products. Today we live in India happy to consume quintessentially Indian brands.
Made in India.
The India of the 90s, I remember my grandmom for my 11th birthday took me to a store down the road from her house in Bombay, which sold only imported products. Because that time what was considered imported was good and Indian was bad. Like, I got a Japanese electronic sharpener for my birthday and that was like amazing, right? So I went to the US in 2009 and I saw this massive move towards natural and organic products. Today it's like part of our life, right? But at that time there was like barely Nature's Basket had come to India and stuff like that. So I went to Whole Foods and just blew my mind that this experience, these customers, these products to try. There's a restaurant there's a cafe, you can eat this food and stuff. So that movement started getting me thinking. And then the other thing which like shocked me was in my freshman dorm, there was a very close friend of mine. She's Dutch. And she was teaching yoga on campus. And I was going for the classes. And I'm thinking to myself, look, it's amazing that yoga is global. But clearly some version of yoga has been repackaged, rebranded, sold to them, and they're selling us back downward dog. Right? It's not the name of an asana, it's downward dog now. But a traditional approach to that, and even when you look at the way the traditional Ayurveda guys looked at us was, they are bastardizing the science.
Yeah.
They are ruining the traditional science. The way I looked at it actually was, hey, these guys have taken what we had, and I'm not saying change it. I'm not saying ruin it. I'm saying, can you repackage or gift wrap it in a form that appeals to modern consumers? If so, that's a beautiful experience, right? Lululemon today is a $8 billion company selling yoga pants. Zero of the value is coming to India.
Yeah.
Zero. I don't even think they sell in India, right?
No.
So if that's the case, clearly we are leaving value on the table. And I remember calling my granddad from campus and saying, hey, it's amazing that yoga is global. It's not so amazing that Indian companies have not taken yoga to the world. We can't let the same happen with Ayurveda. And that's when in my mind I made the decision, I have to do something with this.
Fantastic.
And so we took that out of the box approach to say, hey, we're not drifting from formulations. If you ask me in 5 years that I ran the company, did I innovate on formulations? Maybe 3, 4, 5, right? We made the muscle gain supplement and then we made 2, 3 COVID related products like a fruit and veggie wash, a sanitizer, and a specific kadha that the government had given us a recipe for called Ayush Quad. That's all the R&D that I did. The other things that I did were change the form factor of the product, move from vattis, which are traditional Ayurvedic golis, to capsules. We launched the world's first Ayurvedic toffee, which was Chyawanprash in a toffee form. So the thesis there was, hey, Chyawanprash is very good for you. But modern kids today can tell their parents no. Today my daughter's 1 and if she doesn't want to eat something, she says no. And she pushes it away, right? Now, that insight has translated into market data in relation to Chyawanprash. Chyawanprash has been a 600 to 800 crore market for the last 10, 12 years. If every kid grows up in India having Chyawanprash, or like, let's not say every kid, but at least 2/3 of kids in India have Chyawanprash at some point in their life, how can the market be stuck when our population has grown 40%?
No way.
In the last 10, 12 years or 30% in the last 10, 12 years. So clearly they're stopping to have it earlier than we stopped having it.
And they're having cereal.
And they haven't
is
seen it.
completely-
But if you can give the benefits of Chyawanprash in a format that the kid enjoys, the kid is happy and the parent is happy. And so we launched this toffee and it increased adoption of Chyawanprash significantly to kids who stopped having Chyawanprash. And my nieces were enjoying it and kids all around were enjoying it, right? So I think that the benefit for me, it was a disadvantage in some cases, but a big benefit for me in this specific case was I was not an Ayurvedic doctor. Because I was not an Ayurvedic doctor, I started looking at things. Fine, I had a family legacy in Ayurveda. I spent a lot of time with my grandfather. I transcribed our family formulations from scriptures to computer. I did all of this work, but I still had the consumer lens open. And having that consumer lens open allowed us to create a brand that actually touched, engaged and bridged the gap between ancient Ayurveda and modern consumers. And I think that was an important step along the way. You'll see a lot of brands now who are sort of going on that path, and you'll see even the incumbents also doing products like that. But I think we were one of the first few people to understand this insight and thesis. And I think it's a great step forward for the industry now.
Oh, for sure. I've had many people on this podcast, and one of my goals also through a lot of these conversations is this to get us back to what our culture and heritage is, because there's so much strength in it, and yet we have pushed it away for many other things, which now is being sold back to us, like you said, because it has a more cool quotient. So we adopt it, and we're very happy to, wear it on our sleeve, while all the rest of it we want to just disown. So great work on that.
One of the most beautiful examples in mainstream sort of prime time TV is kabaddi, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a sport that's largely played in India and maybe South Asia and some part of West Asia. And honestly, it didn't have so much mass appeal. Like, nobody really watched it. There was no television. And then if they changed the game, they repackaged the product and the sport, and it's bigger than ISL.
Yeah.
It's bigger than the Football League in India. So really, if you are able to repackage what we have, there is massive value in it.
Because the connection still exists, no? It's just making sure that the new set of people understand what that connection is, because you've lost it. So, no, absolutely. You every time you talk about your grandfather, there's almost like a twinkle in your eye. It seems like, you had this special connection with him and spent a lot of time with him while growing up.
It actually cured me of asthma. So look, I grew up suffering from juvenile bronchitis. I grew up with pumps, nebulizers, inhalers, steroids. I think this was all fine, but what really hurt me or annoyed me as a kid was everybody was playing cricket and football. And I went to play cricket at age 5 at a cricket academy called Hindu Gymkhana. At age 7, my dada moved me off the cricket field because there was too much dust. So I was playing golf and squash as a 7-year-old kid. I have a hand-eye coordination problem. So clearly I was not hitting any golf ball. Just imagine a 7-year-old kid trying to hold a golf club and 95% of the shots are just divoting completely, right? So I think that really annoyed me and my dada saw it. So I spent a lot of time with him growing up. I used to do yoga as well because it used to help with my breathing, and I had very weak lungs. And he cured me of asthma by age 15. I started playing cricket again. I became captain of my school cricket team.
Fantastic.
I now run marathons. I'm running the half marathon for the 5th time in 3 weeks. So I think that really gave me my life back, my childhood back. Like, I was the only kid who couldn't go for sleepovers. If I went for a sleepover to a friend's house, I would carry my own blanket and pillow from home because I had to have these hypoallergenic blanket and pillow. And like, now I look back at it and I'm like, it was fine. It was right to do at that time. But your 7, 8, 10-year-old kids are going to make fun of you at that time, right? So
And bullied for all the wrong reasons.
yeah, so I think that my grandfather gave me my childhood back, or he gave me that part of my life that I didn't have back. And for that, I actually respected him a lot. And for that, I actually started believing in the science much more as well. Other than the fact that it was my family legacy, I started believing in Ayurveda much more. And so I spent a lot of time with him growing up. And outside of transcribing the family formulations from scriptures to the computer, I learned a lot about life skills from him as well, right? So, and I learned that because, my grandfather, every day of his life had the same routine. He would wake up at 4:45 a.m., freshen up, 5:15 to 6:15, he would read books on Ayurveda, medicine, etc., all of that. 6:15 he'd get ready. 6:45 was his first tee off at Willingdon Club, golf, play with the same group of 3 doctors, come back home at like 9:15.
Sounds like my
Eat
retirement.
the same food for breakfast
Yeah.
every day. Go to the clinic, reach the clinic by 10:30, be back at 8, have dinner in a silver thali while watching the news on TV and go to sleep. And that was just repeat. And every time I would go, I would see the same thing and the same thing and the same clothes to work every day, white safari suit and the same black shoes polished. And he would polish his shoes himself at night before he went to bed. So I think that consistency, discipline, hard work, that's something I learned from him. And I really imbibed that in my life, and I live by those philosophies still, So if I started this year with a 10-kilometer run. I wasn't out till 4 a.m. at night partying. I wanted to start the year with a 10-kilometer run, and I did that 10-kilometer run.
We're talking about the first day and you running 10 kilometers. I saw your LinkedIn post about New Year resolutions. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I think we're all in that stage where we're trying to figure and plan better for 2024.
I think, look, this activity started in 2019. So we're doing the 5th year now. It was the craziest year for Dr. Vaidya's. Like, for a while the company was going nowhere, and then suddenly everything started falling into place, and everything started growing so fast, and the team went from 25 to 150 people, and we moved from one office to 7 offices, and everybody was just jumping and sharing this, and we got some Forbes 30 under 30 and Business World 40 under 40, and we were going to launch in the US, and we were going to do this, that, and like, everything was going on, right? And we just got married, and like, it was just, everything was going on at the same time. And I remember on 1st Jan, Trisha said, look, if we don't structure our lives, we let this opportunity go. Either we lose our relationship or we lose the company, one of the two. So we need to start structuring our lives. And then we did this thing where we set up our personal and professional goals for the year. Both of us sat down on Jan 1st, noted down the goals. At that time, she had done an interesting activity. She had found a caricature artist or some graphic artist who had made this she had made this like drawing of our goals,
Okay.
like actual imagery of like, okay, I want to reach 3 crores a month, I want to launch in 4 markets, I want to read outside of work 20 minutes a day, this, that. Like, each of us had our own. She made a picture of it, and then she made it into size that fit as our phone wallpapers. So we put it as our phone wallpapers. But I think from that activity we developed this methodology where, one, we only do it with the two of us. We hold each other accountable. Every 3 months, we re-look at goals and see where we have reached. We also know each other's goals, both personal and professional. So if you're straying off it, like if I see her miss her 10,000 steps now 3 days in a row, I'll tell her. And I think that activity of doing it together, being accountable, debating each other's goals as well. Like this year, I said, I want to do this. She's like, no, you can't do it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
She wanted to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Like, I was like, no, you got to pick 2 or 3 of these because otherwise you won't be able to achieve all of that. I think that activity has been, it creates lots more meaning. And honestly, it helps you, like, while you're building the company together, everything was together. And we sold the company now, both of us have different career paths. It helps you still stay involved and help each other. And I've seen some people do it with their life partner, some people do it with their parents, some people do it with their best friend, some people do it with a sibling. Like, whoever you are that close to that can hold you accountable. That's why you can't do this with everyone.
Yeah.
If there is a formality in the relationship, then it's not.
You know, the other theme that's really popping out is just how strong your relationship with your wife is and the important role that she's played in just who you are today, right? And I think very often, I think when you think about life's decisions, one is what job you want to take, but the second really important one, job in the sense what area of work, and the second one really is who do you want to spend the rest of your life with, right? Because that contributes a lot to where you make it and whether you are the best version of yourself or not. Was there anything that you had in mind, or what do you think really works in the relationship that you have with her that has helped you, you know, really blossom and be in some way the better version every year?
I think the best decision I ever made business-wise was also getting my wife into the business.
Yeah.
Until then, Dr. Vaidya was going nowhere. Then she came 6 months later, the business started going somewhere, and then it went somewhere. So I think both from a work and professional standpoint, I think it's one of the best choices I've made. I would say that I think we had a very interesting journey in which we started dating, we got engaged, she joined the company, we were building a company together. We got married while building this company. 2 years later, we saw the company to exit. Then both of us had to figure out life ahead, decide what to do in life, buy a house, have a kid. So I think in like 7 years, or 6 years of marriage and 7 years of engagement, and maybe this is our 10th year of dating. Lots has happened. I think few things that have worked honestly is like really complementary skill sets. So whether it's work or it's non-work as well, demarcation of responsibilities. Booking of flights, my responsibility. Planning the destination, her responsibility. Business development, marketing, brand, sitting with you doing this podcast, running the factory, legal, my responsibility. But day-to-day performance, marketing, operations, logistics, warehousing, customer service, accounting, which was seemingly the male thing to do. I was just like, no, she's better at it, let her do it. Like if a logistics partner came to me and said, sir, you know, we want to give you this rate. I was like, I don't look at this. You can please speak to my CEO. At that time, she had purposely not changed her last name from a work standpoint so that it didn't, like, for people who didn't know we were married, we were not married. I think the other thing is that, like, respecting each other's goals and career choices as well. Like, I'm right now in the phase of life where I'm an investor, I'm running a VC fund. She's in the phase of life where she wants to start up now.
Yeah.
And so if she wants to start up and she needs me to step in for certain things at home, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
Because running a company is a different role. And she didn't like investing. She did it for a little bit and she enjoyed it, but she thought that it's not her calling in life. But she respects the work I do. And so it means I had to be on 100 flights a year. I had to be on 100 flights last year.
Yeah. No, fantastic. It's beautiful, right? Because I think just having that understanding and that fallback is massive security and safety emotionally, to know that someone's there and will look out for you, right?
Absolutely.
So incredible. How difficult was it for you to let go of Dr. Vaidya, right? Because it seems like you built it with your heart and soul. Like before you had your daughter, it's probably your child, right? Closest to your heart. So it must have been difficult.
Look, incredibly hard. A parcel from Dr. Vaidya actually just came to our house. We had ordered some medicine. It just came to our house and we saw the box and the packaging change and all of that. It felt a little bit odd. It was very, very difficult to give up Dr. Vaidya. It's the time we were giving it up, right? So the time we had the decision to make, the time we had the decision to make to leave, sell our equity, etc. We were honestly given an offer. First we thought there's no way we can leave. Then we saw the offer. I think there was one part of what allowed us to even think about it was the fact that I worked in private equity before. My dad has run the same business for the last 40 years. For him, this is like unthinkable.
Yeah.
But for me, I saw the difference between promoter and CEO, shareholder value, unlocking share. I understood a few of these concepts, right? I can't say I was an analyst, so I wasn't really controlling the decisions, but I understood the concept. So it was very simple actually. We were getting paid fair value for the business. The future of the business was offline. Offline was a massive failure for us. We were not the right people to take it forward. We wanted the brand to be the biggest it could be. And so it seemed like the right time to also hand it over and take it forward, because online the business could have grown 1.5, 2 times from where we left it. After that, honestly, there was no market as such that we saw it. And by the way, the answer we'll only know in 5 years. But for us, at least at that time, it seemed like that. So taking that decision, letting go of something that you spend 95% of your day thinking about, and then overnight it's gone. That was really hard. And then when we were handing it over also, like, you're still there. But then on April 1st, 2021, when it was not there anymore, and you were free to play squash at 11 a.m. if you liked, and be out till 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night, not bothered about what you're going to do the next morning, it was different. I think we were cognizant of ripping off the band-aid, which means that when it's done, it's done. Like, I'm not showing up at the office once a month after it's done. I'm not doing any of that. That was one. And I think the second thing is, at the age that I sold the business, 29, I was never worried that I would not know what I'd do next. Because honestly, I said I'm so young.
Of course.
I'm smart enough to figure out something over the next couple of years, right? So I think that didn't bother me as much. And if you have run a business for 20 years, it's much more difficult, right? Because it becomes complete. And by the way, doctor, this is my identity, but I'm saying it becomes completely your identity. Like, you have done decades in that company. I had not done decades there, right? So I was not underconfident, and neither was Trisha, figuring out what to do next.
I think that's never the problem, but you're right. No, it's more.
No, but it is a problem. My dad says to me, if I don't have this company, what will I do?
What am I going to do? Yeah.
What will I do? And I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Because from the time he's 18, he's been doing this.
Yeah.
And he's 58 years old now. So.
No, I hear you. What I meant was in the context of the new age startup culture now, where sometimes people are not able to step away like you were able to and say, let me be true to myself. There isn't really that much opportunity in the online space. I can't do it in the offline space. This is a good time to let go.
Yeah.
Though that's a difficult conversation
but
to have.
it's also very fine line, right? Because like we are also seeing lots of new age startup folks who are letting go too quickly as well.
That's what I want to get to, right? Where is that fine balance, and what are some of the ingredients of that decision, at least for you, that you feel worked, and examples that you have seen today, like the ones where you said let go very early? How do you make that decision, right? It's very, very tricky.
See, there's lots about Gen Z that's amazing. And I put a LinkedIn post about this yesterday, about how we have to start thinking of, like, 52% of consumers in India will be Gen Z. And so for us as non-Gen Z, we'll have to start figuring out the way Gen Z consumes. And especially I spoke specifically about e-commerce. E-commerce brands will have to understand the way they consume. One thing which I think that generation can learn from our generation is the ability to stay strong and committed to something. I think it's important to keep looking at what's around you, but 6 months is not enough time to figure out whether a job is or a career path is the right one or the wrong one. So it's good to explore various things. It's good to have a lot of interest, but staying committed to something for a longer period of time, giving it its due course, and also fighting.
Yeah.
Like, we fought really hard. I remember we used to have, you're running the company when you're 26, 27, 28. Lots of our friends were getting married. We had a mirror and a hanger in our offices because we'd get ready for all our friends' weddings at the office. And Trisha had a makeup at the office. I remember clearly there was a friend's wedding at Taj. And I was on my laptop, in my sherwani, on my laptop, until I walked into the Taj. Literally, until I walked into the hotel, I was on my phone hotspot writing an email, closing something, right?
Yeah.
And I think that fight, that ability or sort of acceptance that I have to fight through these tough times is really important characteristic for any entrepreneur. If you ask me, what I underestimated was how tough it is. It's really, really, really hard. You will face lots of failure, like lots of failure. You will get kicked, slapped. You will get even at times disrespected. You will at times have very close people to you not support you, who you expected to support you. You will get made fun of. And I think fighting through that time when people make fun, when people don't believe, is really, really important. And having a strong support system was also important to me. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. So my dad understood when I didn't speak at the dinner table. My grandmom understood when I was like not there for a family function. It was okay. Like, I was not able to be there. Right? So I don't want to be there. I want to be there, but I'm not able to be there. And I had a very mature conversation with my dad. We had spent Christmas with some friends outside the city, and I remember very clearly this 26 Jan, we were driving back home, and I was just chatting with my dad on the phone, and he said, look, I don't like it that we don't get to spend so much time anymore. Even though we live in the same building, it's not like you have as much time available as quality time. But I've accepted it because there was that phase in my life when I was also really busy. And that 5, 10, 15 years is your prime and you can't let it go. But when we have time, I want you to be present. You can't be on your phone when we have time. I'm not asking you for time all the time. And I'm accepting that you're busy right now and I may not be as busy at this time, right? I may not. And that's very hard to accept, right? Because that person when I was growing up was the busiest person I knew, right? Like, I would cry and say, come back for my birthday, please, from the work trip. And now the roles have reversed and the maturity to be able to accept that was pretty amazing.
Fantastic. No, really, so sweet you share that. Because I think a lot of people are going through that struggle, right? Where now you are suddenly parenting your parents in very many relationships. And for them to understand, they are understanding and you're also, walking that distance is a huge thing.
So I think all of us need to be mindful as our parents and grandparents get older that actually time is all they want.
And like your dad said to you, that time, but be present.
Be present.
The most important
thing. I'm not as good as I should be at that, honestly.
We're all work in progress, so it's cool.
Yeah, I think even with my grandmom, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Since you're also an investor and because you've been through this entrepreneurial journey, I almost see you as a far more empathetic investor because you've seen the struggles yourself. And so, what is that 5 rupee pen that your granddad had for you? What is that grounding exercise that you have to keep you, grounded?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's like family. Whatever happens around in the world, nothing changes in that dynamic, right? And I think that's really, really important. It's also everybody in the family shares the same values. Everybody lives in the same way. There are ups and downs. And my dad has kept on saying that. Like, I remember it's a very important story in my life. It seems a little bit frivolous when you think about it, but it had a deep impact in my life. We were in London one summer for summer vacation, and there was this sports store called Lily White's on Piccadilly Circus.
Yes.
It used to be the luxury sports store of the world. Now it's like a budget discount sports store.
Yeah.
But we still go there every time. So I got my first cricket set from there. First like proper like expensive cricket set from there. I got a Grey Nichols bat, pads, gloves, helmet, and elbow guard. All from there. And it was that store was expensive. Like it was wooden flooring and wooden stairs and like air condition
floors,
everywhere.
yeah.
4 floors, all of that stuff, right? So very expensive store. My brother was a football fan, so we bought some footballs and some cleats and some shin pads and all of that stuff. So we got like a lot of stuff. And I was walking out of the store and I saw this Spalding basketball. I didn't play so much basketball, honestly. But like we had a basketball court in school. We used to have the Costco balls in India.
Yes.
And NBA, they would play with Spalding ball. We had never seen the Spalding ball here. So we're walking out of the store and I'm like, Dad, I want the Spalding basketball. He's like, are you looking at these bags we are carrying? Like, we've bought so much stuff. You don't play basketball.
Yeah.
You must be playing in school randomly whenever you feel like, but you're not a basketball player. You don't have the height or the build to play basketball anyways. So why do you want the ball? Yeah, I was like, no, I want the ball. And he's like, no, you can't have the ball. Then we are going and I start crying and I'm like, I want the ball, I want the ball, I want the ball.
How old were you?
10, 11 years old, something like that. I want the ball. I just want the basketball. So he stopped. He said, okay, we're turning back now. You can have the basketball. You can have the basketball today because we can afford to buy the basketball. Because in this current situation, we're able to buy the basketball. Tomorrow or day after, when I say we can't afford or we can't buy that basketball, we can't buy the basketball. Are you okay with that? I said, I'm okay with it. He went and bought me a basketball. And that actually, and I've seen, by the way, my dad's an entrepreneur, right? Obviously the business goes up and down, etc. All of that. We have no change in our lives.
I mean, these are values which teach you how to go through life in a very balanced way, no?
And he taught me at 10, right? There's the right way to teach me at 10 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I want to relate this now to a lot of what's happening in the startup world, right? Where I think while the valuations are really sexy, I think I often fall to the traditional legacy businesses where the bottom line is sexy.
Yeah.
Right? And
But by the way, you will see things move towards that now. I think we had 2021 and 22 was a pretty wild time, and I drank the Kool-Aid as well. And I think as investors, a lot of us drank the Kool-Aid, and 2023 was the hangover. We'll see what 2024 is. And a lot of investors said 2021, 22, all of us went to a bar and got drunk together, and then we are now facing the hangover. I would say that I've learned 2 things from experience, meeting traditional businesses, seeing value generated, seeing businesses listed on the stock market, etc. All of that. You're doing business for bottom line.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality. And eventually at some point, it's got to give, right? It's got to happen.
for everyone around.
Second, valuation is valuation until it's value in your pocket. There's a massive difference between primary and secondary. And I saw that. We were able to extract value as secondary that came to us. That's real value.
Yeah.
Your company's valuation multiplied by your stake as a founder is not what you're worth until it's liquid. And there's a price, a massive price to liquidity in unlisted equities as well.
Yes. Otherwise it's paper, no?
But the other thing, which I think is really important, is that it can't get to your head. It just cannot get to your head. Like a lot of people ask me, oh, so one day all that money came into the bank and then what changed? Look, I don't like cars. I just don't like cars. When I started the company, I used to drive a Honda Jazz, small Honda car, which my parents had given me. And people didn't take me seriously as a 25-year-old CEO of a company in a Honda Jazz, and I can't grow facial hair. So I couldn't have a mustache or a beard. So then they were like, who's this kid? Where's your boss? So my dad said, look, I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money and all, but just drive a better car and buy a car for yourself. You have some savings from your private equity job, buy a car. So he said, you set a budget to buy a car? So I said a 10 lakh rupee budget for myself, and I bought a car for myself at that time. I went to buy a car for myself, and then he said, okay, chal, I was buying some Ciaz, Maruti Ciaz. And he's like, Hyundai showroom was just outside our building. He liked this Creta. He's like, I'll pay the difference. Some 15, 16, 5, 6 lakhs ka difference. And he said, you take a car loan, and the delta, whatever little bit is, I'll pay the down payment. So I took the car loan. I just paid the car loan last year. We sold the company. He said, dude, now at least upgrade your car. It's been 5 years, so upgrade your car. I said, okay, sure. I'm happy to upgrade my car. I bought one car in my life, right? And honestly, I don't attach value to cars. It's not like I'm ignorant or anything like that. My dad loves cars. He has a nice car all the time. I don't attach value, so I don't even know what it costs.
Yeah.
So, chal, I'll take you to car showrooms and we'll see. And so he took me to some luxury car dealerships, and I saw the price of cars. And I have no issue with people who like cars. For me, a car is point A to point B.
Yeah.
So I said, look, in the delta between my Creta and the car you're telling me to buy, I can make 10 startup investments.
Yes.
So clearly there is no value ascribed for me for that. I said, I'll upgrade 20%, 25%. And so I went and got myself a MG EV.
Yeah.
I said, if I'm a tech investor now, I better be driving an electric vehicle at least. And I got myself an MG EV and I was happy with that. And okay, there are other things I spend on. Like I spend a lot on my sports equipment and stuff. I want the best running shoes for my marathon and stuff. But for the things that I don't attach value to, I don't have to prove to anybody else.
Not at all.
So can't let get to your head. I think that's very important. Even if you make the money, I don't think it would change the person you are.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's why I asked this question, right? Because the lesson that your father taught you at 10, I think many of us at some point need to revisit that, because sometimes the new money coming in, you lose track of where you came from and what your values are, and you sort of, this very shiny world suddenly seems very, very attractive. But only to later realize it's very transient. And
Agreed,
as
agreed.
quickly the deck gets built up, it falls
Correct.
equally quickly, right? So to just stay and maintain that balance is very, very critical. I think, I also want to ask you, you are also an influencer and a content creator, like you were saying, and, I'm sure I'm very early in the journey, but I often get very concerned and impacted on my general mental well-being with the kind of comments you get, right? And, I'm sure you've had your share of it as well. How do you really deal with that, and what keeps you really focused on what you want to get out of this?
It sounds a little bit odd, but I honestly get zero. I don't get affected. I don't read so much also, honestly. I'm not doing this for any likes, shares, views, fame, etc. The audience has gotten much smarter, right? Like, I talk about like the opportunity of coffee in India, the mass premium price point, and how sports jerseys are cheaper and how that's creating a bigger market. And people are listening to that content, and not just tens of people, like millions of people are listening to that content, which is good. I think when I have read the comments though, some of them are very nasty and some of them are very rude and unfounded, honestly. But they're so random
Yeah.
and so off that it just seems like someone taking out some other frustration on me. So I just let it go, honestly. Because it's not a very, very large part of my life, maybe it doesn't affect me more. But I think for people who it is a large part of their lives, I think it's very harmful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not fair. It's not correct. My wife gets more affected by me than me about these comments. She keeps screenshotting and saying, "Did you see what this guy said about you?"
I can imagine.
For now, I don't at least
Yeah.
attach so much importance to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, to wrap this up, you spoke about your goals, etc. in 2024, but like, what are the top 3 things you're sort of racing towards, right? And also just trends in investing that you're seeing, just for even folks who are listening in to really understand if they are starting a business, which is the direction or what are the areas of work that they could look at?
Yeah, so I'll start with maybe things I'm racing towards. I think I'm in a new career career path. And I think I'm inexperienced in this career path. I have some stuff to offer, which hopefully is good. But I definitely want to be at the top of my game and at the top of whatever I am to offer to the consumer investing world. And so I need to get much better this year through various aspects, but be honest that, hey, there are people who are much more experienced and who are better than you, and you need to learn from them and accept that, right? So I think I need to be a better investor this year. And I'm not saying I've done a bad job, I've done an okay job, but you can always get better. So
Sure.
I think that's one important goal for me. The second goal for me is that now my daughter's obviously reached an age where she knows what's going on. And so I definitely need to be more present because she understands when I'm going for a flight, when I'm leaving the house, etc. Like, We went for a friend's wedding. We came back and she was like super excited. So clearly she knew we were not there.
Yeah.
And so I need to be more present now in my goals for her, which are, and we've split again responsibility. So sports and education is my part of her upbringing. And so I need to start that this year because now she'll be able to do some of those activities. So that's number 2. And I think number 3 is that my parents are young still. They're like late 50s now. But I think my grandmom is turning 85 in a week. And I think that it's important that I make the most of the time she has now. It's beautiful to see her with my daughter. It's 4 generations of our family. But I think I need to be more present for whatever time we have left with her. And we're fortunate to have her with 4 stents and 2 bypass surgeries still
Amazing.
active and there and present. And yeah, like, I mean, doesn't look 85 at all. So I think these 3 things I'm racing towards personally. I think trends in investing, I would say, let me talk about my area of interest or expertise, which is consumer.
Yeah.
I think it's a big year ahead. What we are seeing is that, as you said, bottom line, the first trend is businesses are becoming more bottom line focused, but in this space, you can actually build a business bottom line focused. You can actually build revenue and gross margin and contribution margin, eventually EBITDA faster. So we're seeing lots of really good businesses now that were underrated or under the radar becoming now relevant, and everyone will have to move towards this bottom line focus. If you don't have it, now you're not getting looked at and you're not getting capital, but business will chase, capital will chase good business, and they're enough there. Second interesting thing I'm seeing is actually niches are now yielding large businesses, right? Like whether it's gut health or longevity or Gen Z focused denim or pan on Swiggy or cold coffee carts, and some of these businesses I've invested in. I think these, given the size of our country and the depth of penetration of a digital economy, you can actually build like 100 crore businesses here, which is exciting and unique, right? And so I think as the market and economy evolves, these niches will start yielding large business outcomes, which is where every developed economy goes, or where a developing economy moves to develop. I think I'd say the last thing is that I think consumers are becoming more demanding and consumers are becoming more brand conscious. There are certain spaces where there are not enough brands yet, whether it's home and kitchen or it's pet or it's sports and fitness, which is actually a large category now. I was reading the numbers. Adidas, Puma, Decathlon, Asics and Skechers, just 5 companies did 10,000 crores in FY23, which means they'll do 12, 13,000 this year. That's in no way a small industry. It's not a pastime anymore. It's a market. So I think picking these industries like sports and fitness, research-based health and wellness, pets, home and kitchen, I think these spaces could be very interesting for the year ahead.
So you spoke about longevity, and I want to connect that to the typical Ayurvedic products that people now take, right, around ashwagandha or moringa or general well-being. And now again, it's one of those things which has been sold back to us, so we have them. But have you really? Is it just a fad, or does it really deeply have impact on our body?
You're asking the wrong person because
No, I want a true answer.
I've grown up having it.
Especially, sorry, I remember, I think in the Karan Johar show, I think Varun Dhawan said you should have ashwagandha because he has it every night.
Yeah, look,
so
look,
it's really picked up.
I think it's picked up both here and in the West as well. Ashwagandha, Trisha was doing some research on Amazon US. There's millions of dollars of ashwagandha sold on Amazon US every month, right? Look, I think there was a time when people questioned Ayurveda to be a fad. And this was 2014. Government changed. Ministry of Ayush was created. Patanjali Revolution was just about kicking off. They'd done 1,000 crores and everybody was like, Ayurveda. 9 years in, we're still there.
Yeah.
We're very much there. Then people said Ayurveda and immunity is a fad. COVID happened. Everybody is having it. And then after COVID, everybody will stop having it. Honestly, immunity supplements have reduced significantly in terms of sales. But I think what I used to tell my team at that time is that people will adopt Ayurveda now. They'll buy an immunity supplement. It's your job to sell 2 or 3 other things, right? And I think look, 72% of India consumes at least one Ayurvedic product on a daily basis. Indian households, right? Now, if you look at a hair oil, or you look at some shampoo, or you look at some ashwagandha tablet, or you look at some turmeric tablet, or you look at some Chyawanprash, something Ayurvedic, right?
Yes.
The job for the industry is to make that 1 into 2, 3, 4, 5 products and really have people adopt the lifestyle with positivity, not just it happens to be in my home. And I think that's the next journey, right? Which yoga is now doing yoga is cool and
Yeah.
exciting, and people travel the world to do yoga, and they come to India and they spend thousands of dollars for yoga retreats. I think we have some way to go with Ayurveda there.
Yeah. No, and I think the conversation I was having with Herschel is around how do you make meditation that now? Because I do a lot of meditation, heartfulness meditation, and, I think it's something that everyone should do in their lives, right? And so I think his work with LSM is a lot around
Yeah,
that. How
yeah.
do you make it cool? How do you get rid of all the baggage that it has, which does not even exist? It's all
Correct.
in our minds.
Correct.
So I hope that it happens for Ayurveda, but it's been an absolute exceptional conversation, Arjun. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
this.
My pleasure.
And, I think I see how, every time you want to do that 0 to 1, I think you're doing that with content creation. You've done that with Dr. Vaidya. You're also doing it with investing. So I love that spirit because, always starting and creating something new always teaches you about yourself. And I think that's a constant journey. And absolutely, you live the values that your grandfather put up on the wall. So I think a lot for us to learn. And at least I learned a lot from all the
Thank you.
insights
And
you shared.
I wanted to say one thing as we end the conversation as well. I think we're doing this in a place that's not your home, but it felt like through this entire conversation, I was talking to a friend, there was no camera, and the conversation flowed really well. So thank you so much for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much for that compliment. Coming from another podcaster and a content creator means a lot. I take it as a compliment. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thanks. And wishing you all the best for your 2024 goals.
Thank
Yeah.
you.